The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Phixated Podcast. I am your host, coming to you live from Cleveland, Ohio, Mike Azalina, and I'm joined by a guy who was holding me in his arms 2 years ago today, Regzy Boo. Happy Bedlam at the Bank anniversary.
Same to you. That was one of the weirder Phillies. I guess you can put in. I'm putting in air quotes for the people who are only listening. Watching experiences we've ever had, because I guess let's paint the picture. We were at a golf tournament for our good buddy Phil, for his school district, I believe, or his school. He invited all the roommates. We had two groups, I think, right? Did we have two groups, or was it just it was two of us? It was two groups, right?
Yeah, no, it was just us because Phil didn't play.
Oh, that's right. So it was me, you, Stein.
Nope, Banks and your brother.
Oh, that's right. My brother had to come. That's right. See, even Azzy is reminding me what this day even was. So we're down in South Jersey. It's cold.
It's raining.
Yeah. And the Phillies are in game 6 of the playoff, game 5 of the playoffs against the San Diego Padres. And so we're following on our phones throughout the round. It continues. It rains the entire time we're out there. And by the time we there's wild pitches from Sir Anthony. The Phillies go down 1. We're like, oh my God, I can't believe they're blowing this.
Mm-hmm.
And right when we get back to the clubhouse for the dinner, something happens and no one has enough service on their phone to know what is going on.
Yep.
But it just starts slowly trickling in that Bryce did something.
Mm-hmm.
And we're trying to refresh Twitter and check our MLB apps. None of it is loading. Not a single thing. And so finally, one guy gets enough service to get an update. I don't even know if was it a video even?
He was actually able to get the game up live.
He started streaming the game.
He was on delay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I don't know, did we actually see the home run on his phone, or was it past it at that point?
We saw the replay of the home run on his phone. Because he said Bryce homered. On my phone we had in play runs, but it wasn't updated what the runs were. It just said in play runs.
Yeah.
And then he said Bryce homered.
Yeah.
And by the time we got over there, it was the replay, which didn't do it justice, as we saw all of the live replays later. The Joe Davis call, the
Fransky call. It was Joe Davis. Yeah, it
was Joe Davis. The Fransky call and all the other stuff that came along with it. But then to finish your story, we decided that we were going to go watch the rest. There was a bar connected to
we figured out it was on in the bar,
which would have made sense to check originally.
We probably would have been able to run over and catch it.
So,
but we also we felt bad because it's the banquet part of the golf tournament. We're there for our buddy. We're trying to weigh, do we go, do we literally leave during dinner and this awards, the thing that usually happens at scrambles. So we were very much in between, and finally we're we can't watch them go to the World Series on our phones.
And also, I mean, I think we had done our due diligence as friends.
Yeah, that's a fair point. We did not come inside. We stuck out. We
played full 18.
All 18 holes, yep.
The freezing cold rain. Listened to the Phillies on our radio app. And for me and Banksy especially. Well, no, you too. Why am I thinking we were in college still? For all three of us, we drove a heck of a long way to play in this thing.
Yep.
I drove there late the night before because I was at the game.
Right.
Yeah, like I got to Phil's house at like 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah,
You and
I got
Banksy
there
was
just before you.
you and Banksy were awake watching a movie that I don't even want to talk about. John Wick.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So we
Yep.
watched it in the bar. We're screaming at David Robertson.
Yep.
They pull him. They go to Ranger.
Mm-hmm.
Ranger fields the bunt cleanly, makes it look easy in the rain, and then the pop up to Nick Castellanos, and I jumped on you. You caught me. We celebrated. Even Banks was excited
Yeah.
about it. Banks. I remember Banks. I don't know when he said it, how he said it, but just like how watching that with us like made him a fan for even just like
Yeah. Yeah.
and just for context, whether you listen to the two-way miss or not, like Banks is a sports guy. He's not a baseball
Yeah.
guy.
No, he's not a baseball guy.
Not a baseball guy. So it was, he said I was in that moment, I was a fan just because of the joy that, we were
Yeah.
experiencing. So that was 2 years ago, man. It's pretty crazy that play, that moment, that team, that series, that experience, that journey was all 2 years ago.
Yeah. It seems longer and shorter all at the same time. It's like one of those moments that seems like yesterday, while also if you told me that was 7 years ago, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And we're, I've said it on the show. I hope that wasn't their best shot.
Yeah.
We don't know. We're gonna have conversations about it for a long time over the course of the off season. And it's not one of those nights.
Listen, I know, yeah, we're not going to talk Phillies, but I think they owe us because you and I have not experienced them winning a World Series together.
No.
Despite our fandom, I was in the trainer's room of Elizabethtown College Gymnasium when the Phillies won the World Series in 2008.
That's right.
So we did not experience that moment together.
That's right. And we had talked about, not on the air, but we had talked about, if they had gotten to that point that we would try and find a way to watch
Oh, yeah.
a game or a clinching opportunity together, but they didn't make it far enough for us to have that experience.
We've got a lot of life to live, so they owe us. They owe us one.
Yeah.
I was just yeah, you were with our buddies and I was I was crouched in a corner crying to myself around the women's lacrosse and basketball team while the Phillies won the World Series, watching a TV this big in the trainer's room.
We were in Josh's room,
right,
living room essentially. We were in there, and
because his was 3 seconds faster, right?
Yeah, Ryan watched it on delay in the other room, and Phil, Josh, I think Banks was in there. Stein was definitely in there, because every time Lidge threw a strike to Eric Hinsky, Stein pulled one item away from me, like my computer, my cell phone.
Just so you didn't throw things.
You're gonna break stuff, and then strike three, we just dogpiled on top, and like somehow within 3 minutes of the last pitch, Dan Maletta came charging in our house, with like 3 beers. Like he's just like and then I made the rounds. I drove to many different places.
Did you? I don't think I know this.
Yeah, I went to.
I don't think we've ever talked about this.
Went to Mount Joy with him, so I went back to their house.
How did he get to our house right at that point?
I mean, it was like 3 minutes after, and then he's like, "You want to go back to our house and drink?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's go." And then I like barged into the Rose Garden. They were all asleep. But I drank some beers, like woke up Cokie and made her drink a beer. I went to another spot, but then I ended up in Andrea's at like I was really late when I ended up at her place. She just opened the door for me, let me in, and went back to bed. I think I stayed up and drank more. But I can't. I went 3 places. And I'm drawing a blank on the third, but I made my rounds then.
I cannot for the life of me think of what I did when I got home.
Well, we didn't hang out because I was
No,
gone.
which is wild to think of.
I took the tour of E-Town.
Yeah, not for the life of me can I remember what I did that night.
Yeah.
Again, I vividly remember the final pitch and what like happened to my body
Yeah.
and like what I did, but after that, it's nothing. I am completely blank.
I went to Schmidt's. That was my third place.
There you go.
Yeah, that was my third place. Shockingly,
he wasn't at our house. Yeah,
that's unbelievable.
that's a classic Schmidt. He should have. Why wasn't he there?
I don't know. I mean, that he was like mini Azzy.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand how he wasn't there. You know who else I went to see? Ace. I went to Ace's house too. I went to 4 places. So yeah, I made my rounds.
I can't for the life of me think of what I did.
Whether people wanted to see me or not.
Yeah, they were seeing you. That's right.
With beers and backpacks.
God.
And just
how much what I would have given to be on that journey with you.
All I want is to pop bottles for this team. That's all I want.
All right. Well, we'll get into them.
162, 173 win games, whatever.
That's right.
How many more, JT? 173. Anyway, all right. So we're gonna talk about basketball team and the football team tonight. The basketball team opened their season. I know that since we've come on, I've been peeking back and forth. I thought they were making a little run, but they're not. And it, I don't think we expected a win tonight. For those that don't know, they opened at home against the Bucks this evening, and no Joe, no Paul George. KJ Martin started tonight. Andre Drummond started tonight. It was a
pretty big bummer.
Yeah, opening night, opening week, and your 2 best players aren't on the floor, and you're playing Giannis Antetokounmpo, you're playing Dame Lillard. It's a good basketball team on the other side. So they kept it competitive till about like 2 minutes left in the second quarter. And it just got away. They got guys in foul trouble, had to go to zone, and the way that the Bucks shoot it, like you're not going to survive.
It has to be a very off night for them.
Yeah, you're just not going to survive. I mean, Dame Lillard was 6 of 11 from 3 tonight. And Giannis did Giannis things, and he's at the line again. Tyrese Maxey has only been at the line once, which is just unbelievable to me.
That's all about how big they each are.
Yeah, I get it. I know. We had the conversation. We'll never stop having it because I just think it's ludicrous that the amount of contact Tyrese Maxey takes and he doesn't get to the line. But so I think the couple things. I don't have many like complaints about tonight. I think the bummer is no Joel, no PG. I think there's, Shaq and Barkley really went off on Joe last night. I thought Stephen A. coming to his side today was a bit of a surprise. But I agree with what Stephen A. said, which was technically like, this is a dude who's missed like 360 games in his career or something like that, like something absurd. And this is what they're going to do. I also think it's absolutely asinine that the NBA is putting this team under investigation when Kawhi Leonard never plays basketball. Like the guy doesn't play. He plays less than Joe. And like the Clippers don't go under investigation.
Yeah.
This is me. This is me.
I think the only reason that happened is because it became public. Like that it became public that Joel said, "This is how I want to manage it."
Sure.
I think Kawhi is always under the guise of injury. And Kawhi just doesn't speak publicly the way that Joel does. I think not that he shot himself in the foot a little bit, but I think like the fact that it came out that, he texted Maury about, hey, like all that's important is me being healthy in the playoffs. I think it just became too public of a storyline that the NBA kind of had to do something to save face. I don't I'm not saying this to generally disagree with you, because I actually do agree. I think there's plenty of examples of this happening.
Mhm.
I think this it just became too public for the NBA to do nothing.
Yeah,
And I think I really do think that's the only reason.
and that's fine. I mean, it is what it is. I think,
Yeah, I
if I think it's an extreme. I think it's an extreme action. I think it's an extreme that he's going to sit every back to back. Like that's not happening. Um, but Nick Nurse talked about it today. Like he's just not where we want him to be, and we're not going to put him out on the floor if that's the case. Nor should we. Like
yeah,
it. Like
we've talked about this, and everybody knows my stance on this. Like, I don't really understand the whole he's not at the place we need him to be. Like he's not technically injured. So whatever this whole like not where we need him to be thing is, I don't we talked about this a few episodes ago. I know it's probably an unfair comparison, but it was even brought up in the broadcast that he's trying to take this Tim Duncan approach to reworking his body and trying to prolong his career. Like, that's cool. Tim Duncan didn't sit out opening games. Like, unless truly, unless he's injured and we don't know it. But as of right now, Nick Nurse came out publicly and said he's not injured. So I don't really understand what the he's not ready line is about, unless you have an opinion about this. Like, I don't really get it. You played basketball in the Olympics. You presumably did not get hurt during that time. Why? And again, I speak to this with no information. Why wasn't every second of your off season getting in shape for this season? Like, saying that you're like he's not where we want him to be means he didn't take his off season seriously enough. I'm only going off the information that we have right now. I don't know, like, what is the other reason? What is the actual thing that is wrong with Joel Embiid right now? Because you can't say I want to, like, I get it. You want to rest for the playoffs. Opening night is not like taking a day off because I don't want to play back-to-backs. Like, that's not how this works, is it? Honestly, I will listen. Like, am I missing something?
Well, I have as much information as you have.
No, I know, but do you interpret it a different way, maybe?
I think my stance on it is there are 82 of these. Like who the hell cares if he plays game one? Like I really don't care. All I care about is April. Like if he plays 40 games and game one is one loss of the however many they're gonna have this year, like I don't care. What I want is one freaking postseason where Joel Embiid is on the floor and at 100%. I don't care about October 23rd. Like it doesn't matter to me. And whatever reason they give is whatever reason they give. Like if they just say he's not ready and it's really just we're not playing him, fine. Like I truly could not care less if he plays this game. To me, it's October 23rd against the Bucks is so much different than June 3rd against the Bucks. Like that's the game that matters far more to me. So I don't have an interpretation. I don't have an opinion. All I know is like he's not on the floor tonight, and that's because they want him. They want to manage him. They do. They want to load manage him, and they can't say that anymore. So they're going to do whatever they have to do to do that. I don't really have like a I don't have like a narrative. I don't have a spin. I don't have an opinion other than like we do every year is be angry that Joel Embiid can't play in the postseason. So I'm gonna choose to hope that this plan helps him to be available in the postseason, and I'm not gonna get angry about him not playing on October 23rd.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that because if the end result is He's now if we get there and it hasn't helped and somehow he's injured again, then I don't know what to say anymore.
Yeah, sure.
But I think like for me, it's just like I've like the hit piece that Marcus Hayes put out, the way that Barkley and Shaq talked about him last night. Like, I mean, this dude has literally injured every part of his body. He's not a guy like he's not a guy who and I know I'm ranting and I want to get to the game, but this is the last thing I'll say. At no point in his career has Joel Embiid come off to me as a person who doesn't want to be on the court. He has played through injuries. He has done his best to be on the floor when his team needs him. He hasn't been 100% in the postseason, to his own fault, to the shape he's in, to freak incidences like when he had Bell's palsy in the freaking playoffs. Like the dude is on the floor. He tries to play. So it's not like this is like a pattern or a trend of like Joe doesn't care. I think at this point, Joe doesn't care about winning an MVP, doesn't care about being an all-star, doesn't care about being all NBA. All Joel wants to do is win playoff games. And as a fan, I appreciate that because I also want to win playoff games. I'm tired of second round exits. So if not playing on 10-23 means I can win a playoff game or playoff series in April, May, June, so be it.
Yeah, I truly do. I truly do get that point. I think the reason that there is criticism is because to this point, like again, someone could prove me wrong who knows a lot more about NBA history than I do. But I think the reason that he gets so much there's so much talk about it, especially from guys like Shaq and Barkley, is because there haven't been many sustained NBA winners who take this route. I think that's where a lot of this comes from. I'm not disagreeing with the fact that your entire goal should be to get Joel Embiid as healthy as possible when the playoffs start. I don't disagree. I truly don't. But when you try to talk about him in the context of like some of the best big men to ever play, this just has not been the way that these guys have gone about it. In the past, I understand that if it works, right? And who cares how we did it? It makes no difference. But I think it's the reason he gets this kind of vitriol, especially from older guys, is because you can't really look back at NBA history and be like, oh, yeah, the best winners in this sport have been like, let me just take a few off because I just want to be healthy for the playoffs. And again, with his history and all this, I get it. I'm not disagreeing with the premise or the fact that I, as a fan, want him to be as healthy as possible. I also don't think until it happens, you can't really argue with guys like that getting like throwing criticism his way, because historically, this is not how this works. So it's an interesting dichotomy in how Joel has been kind of this one-of-a-kind talent for his size and his skill level and his ability to like be on the floor at the end of games because he makes free throws, and all the talent that he possesses and the skill sets that he possesses are truly unique. They really are. But in the way he's now trying to go about it is completely counterintuitive to the rest of NBA history for how somebody becomes a quote unquote winner. And so that's where I think a lot of this comes from. Again, if it works, nobody talks ever again about this and it's over. But unfortunately, until then, until it actually happens, I think there's going to be a lot more talk about that kind of stuff. And again, as a fan, yes, all I want is Joel Embiid as healthy as possible when the playoffs start to try and make an actual run at it. My question to you is going to be around Doris Burke made a point tonight on the broadcast of she had a question for Richard Jefferson about, will this approach cause the trio of Maxey, Joel, Paul George to maybe not have meshed as well as possible throughout the entire season? If maybe only two of them are playing for a few days at a time and they don't get a ton of reps all together, do you think there's any validity to the point of like, well, maybe when they get in the playoffs, like it's not perfect, they haven't played enough together, things like that? It was an interesting point that you brought up, and something that I honestly, hadn't thought of.
It was, and I definitely think there's validity to it. I mean, he talked about how, what is this, year 2 for Dame and Giannis, and it's whatever it is for the Celts now. Like they've been doing it for a while. So the Sixers are a little bit behind the 8 ball, and you look at New York, even though like they got their doors blown off, they're kind of in a year one situation right now too, with a few of the guys that they brought over, like Towns and Bridges. So yeah, but I think those guys will play all 82 together,
Right.
unless they get hurt. The Sixers could be at a disadvantage. I think that there's 3 talents there though that can all play the type of basketball that can just win you a game individually, with the attention being on the other two. Like you can play a little bit of hero ball. The NBA kind of works that way. But yeah, I think there's definitely validity to, they're not going to be as cohesive as some of the other teams that they're going to have to deal with come playoff time. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes throughout the year. I'd anticipate we get, somewhere around 50, 55 Joel games, if that. And to me, Shaq and Barkley, those guys are going to have to deal with it, because I really don't care what they think, honestly. I really could not care less what their opinions are of him. I'd venture to guess that, if they played today's game and had the injury history that Joel has had, and I don't lean into a lot of it being, Joel's had some freaky stuff happen to him in his career.
That's true.
And if you have that sort of injury history and you want to win as badly as Joel does, you're going to do whatever that takes. So I do want to just quickly look at tonight and talk about a few things. Again, almost full strength Bucks team, no Middleton, but you still have 2 superstars playing. Middleton is to the Bucks what Maxey is to the Sixers. He's the third option on the team. Giannis and Lowry are PG and Joe, at least the way we assume it to be. Maybe Maxey will be more than that. They ended up losing by 15. I don't know that it was even that close.
Yeah, probably not.
When you look at push come to shove, it probably wasn't that close. But some things that I pull out from this game: Kelly Oubre had a really nice night, got to the basket a lot, defended well. I think, again, you breathe on Giannis the wrong way, and it's 2 free throws. I want to look at how many free throws he shot tonight. He had 16 free throws tonight. Unbelievable. Tyrese Maxey shot 4 free throws, but he was on the ground a lot, which goes along with the trend. He was 10 of 31 from the field. I've already seen that Elliot Short-Parks tweeted Tyrese Maxey was a letdown tonight, or let the Sixers down tonight, or something like that. Kind of hard to carry a roster when the entire Buck team knows that you're the offense for the evening, and you got no whistle. Like, he just gets no whistle whatsoever. The guy carries 0 whistle. Andre Drummond, double-double. like welcome back. 10-13.
Yeah.
He's fine. He's the backup center, and when you have a backup center, he's gonna pull 13 rebounds in limited minutes. Like that's fantastic. Um, Outside of that, it was nice to see some of these wings play. Caleb Martin plays with a lot of energy. Um, KJ Martin played fine out of the gate, but got in foul trouble really quickly. Eric Gordon looks very slow.
He did look really slow. Like even just
He,
jogging down the court, it was like, God, it
yeah, he's
doesn't
very
even like it looks like it hurts.
Yeah, it is something to watch. But let me just one more shout, and then your thoughts on tonight. Gershon Yabusele. Um, he's the dude that they brought over. Was he on the French team?
Yes.
Yeah. From the Olympics, he spent 5 years playing in the FIBA. But and you can tell the game's a little quicker for him here than it is there. But I think he'll catch up. He played fine. He plays with energy.
Yeah.
He was in an unfair spot tonight.
Oh,
playing
yeah.
5'6", 8", and he's on the floor with Brooke Lopez and Giannis at the same
Yeah.
time.
Even Bobby Portis. Like
Yeah. But he had 10 and 4 and played a nice game. He's probably, when the team's at full strength, he's probably your 8th, 9th man.
yeah.
But they do roll deeper with many more athletes than what we've come to see from the Sixers. So not an ideal opening night. Obviously, you want to see them win, and you want to see the stars out there, but there were some encouraging signs. The rebounding was better. They were far more aggressive on the glass as a unit, especially to start the game.
Especially offensively.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I don't think we saw that many offensive rebounds in like a month for the Sixers team last year.
No. And defensively, not defensive rebounding, but defensively, I was impressed with their aggressiveness. Again, once they got in foul trouble, they were missing 2 big pieces,
Yeah.
rim protector, wing defender. But once that happened, they had to go zone, and you just can't play.
Yeah, not when they're shooting like that.
With the Bucks when they're shooting like that. I think who was it? Prince. I don't think Prince missed tonight. He ended up missing. He was 6 of 7, 4 or 5 from 3. But they as a team made 12, 13, 14, 15 threes tonight.
Yeah.
Like they were lights out from 3. So it's just gonna be tough to win games like that. But anything that stood out to you, just as a quick quick Six.
I think I told you I had a bold prediction about Paul George.
Yeah. What's your
I think Paul George is going to have a bigger impact defensively for this team than offensively.
Okay.
I think you saw a enormous defensive problem with Paul not being out there.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that the rim protection that Joel offers is always important and makes a huge difference. I'm conceding that fact. Like it was way too easy to get to the bucket tonight for that Bucks team. But the disadvantage that they're at, like the best players in this game are wing players. They just are. Yeah. And the Sixers have no one who defends like Paul George. Just no one with his size and athletic ability.
Yeah.
And his ability to stay in front of people. And it was like like again, Giannis is going to get his. He always will. He's one of the top 5 players in the entire league.
Always.
You concede that point. But this team still has a problem with guarding guards, quick guards who can get to the basket. They don't really have a lockdown defender for those kind of players. But that's where Joel's rim protection comes into play so much, is that he deters those smaller players. But when you have a wing that's just able to do whatever he wants, like it breaks down every defensive scheme you could ever imagine. Or try, again, I understand they're diminished and things like that. I'm just speaking from like a larger sense. Any team in the NBA who can't defend these wing players, it's going to look like tonight, where everything is an open bucket. Everything is just a drive and a kick to a guy who's got nobody close to him. Um, and I truly do. Like this made me really kind of realize Paul George is going to have a huge impact defensively on this team.
I think that's fair.
They haven't had a guy like that as a defender, as a wing defender, like maybe since Robert Covington or Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
You know, obviously Iguodala back in the day, but I was just trying to think of more recently.
Right.
Some more recent examples. But I like when I watched it, I was like, okay, obviously Paul is going to contribute offensively. He's been shooting a great preseason, things like that. It'll make a huge difference when Joel is out there, just in terms of how the ball moves, all those things, where the attention is drawn, everything like that. But I just looked at that and I'm like, God, all the best teams are driven by wing players. And if you don't have a guy who can stay in front of those dudes, like you're just not going to play good defense.
No.
And I just think Paul George is going to be a huge factor defensively for this team. Because like I said, we haven't had a guy like that in years.
Yeah.
With his size and athletic ability.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I'm anxious to watch him. Like, we didn't really get to see the I didn't get to watch the preseason. I don't know if you watched the game. I just saw highlights of it, but the one he played in, and then he got hurt.
Yeah, just highlights like you.
But I am anxious to see him on the floor. We're in jump here, but they have a game on Friday night against the Raptors, and then they're on the road against the Raptors. Then on Sunday they go to Indiana. So 2 more Eastern Conference games here to kick off the season. My question is, do we see one and or both of Paul and Joel in either of those 2 games?
Well, I think Nurse said Joel's not playing the rest of the week.
Okay, so
that's out. I think we will see Paul George.
Okay, even Sunday, does that count as the week?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, so hopefully we see PG. I think it just helps Tyrese not have to take on 32 shots.
Yeah, it's very hard to understate how good of a player you have to be his size and dominate a basketball game in 2024.
Yeah.
Like, I know Jalen Brunson scores his points. Jalen Brunson has figured out some way to just manipulate his body in
his whistles
and his strength and things like that. Like, that is not Tyrese's skill set. And again, Jalen Brunson is one guy.
Yeah.
Like, you don't see guys of his size like literally dominating basketball games in this day and age. It's very, very difficult. It just is. And I don't think you can really get on him for that. Like, again, do we want him to make some more shots? Sure. Do we want him to start slowly showing the ability to like take over games for 5, 7, 8 minutes at a time? Of course we do. And I think he's proven that. I think he's proven his ability to do that.
Yeah.
He's just like, he's still a young guy. And it's just very difficult at his size to dominate a basketball game.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, 0-1, 81 to go. Or 80 to go? 81 to go. Couldn't think if it was 81 or 82. But yeah, so not worried. Forward and onward and
upward, right? As they say.
That was the one I was looking for. Upward. So yeah, 0-1 game on Friday. Hopefully PG's back.
Hopefully PG's back for that, yeah.
Take one or both of the next 2, and no one gives a shit about tonight. It's like the baseball mentality taking over right now. So let's jump to the football team. The Eagles moved to 4-2 this past weekend in New York with a 28-3 win. I think I don't remember both of our predictions, and I'm not at home to look at my notes, but
I don't think we had it as much of a blowout.
no, I don't even think I had it as a double-digit win,
I think I
to be
had,
honest.
yeah, I think I had 24-13 or 21-13, something like that.
Yeah, I can't remember. I'll have to look at our notes, but I know we didn't have what it ended up being. Um, I a couple of things from this game. The defensive line ate quite a bit. They had 5 or 6 sacks. I'm trying to remember the number. I believe
Well, I
it was
think
five.
it might be more than that.
Well, okay. Double check
I'll
me.
look it up.
I
Yep.
think it's 5 or 6. But my point here is not the number. It's that none of them came with more than 4 rushers. I know a lot of people probably watching it were, well, Nakobe blitzed. Well, yeah, he did. He came from the second level. But on those plays, they dropped a defensive lineman into coverage, and he was the 4th rusher. So they never sent more than 4 on any of those sacks. Nolan Smith stood out to me quite a bit this week. He was fantastic. That's 2 weeks in a row that he's played that way. Bryce Huff played really well. It was 8.
8 sacks.
Good Lord. Okay. Bryce Huff played really well. He did what, he only had one of those sacks. However, it was also the way that he pressured Daniel Jones up in the pocket into the waiting arms of Jalen Carter multiple times. So there were definitely encouraging signs. Josh Sweat had a good day. Nakobe had 2 himself. I saw that the average time to throw per those sacks was like right around 3-1, which is pretty much the median number for a quarterback, which is good news. These were coverage sacks. The other thing that is important to note is Vic talked about being in pass rush situations, and they finally got in pass rush situations these last 2 weeks. They're playing better against the run. He's committed to 5 and 6 man fronts on running downs, which is great. I think it's fantastic that he's committing to that. It'll be interesting to see teams that get rid of the ball a little more quickly, like the Bucks did. I don't know if the Bengals do that. I really don't know. They have the receivers that they don't have to, but they can if they want to.
Sean Syed was saying on the Philly special that their offense is very similar to the Eagles, that they look to take advantage of the matchups on the sidelines. And that it's not necessarily like a quick pass kind of offense.
Well, I will say this. It's going to be a test.
Yeah.
In terms of those 2 receivers on the outside, they're very good.
Yep.
But man, what a fun matchup it's going to be.
Oh yeah.
With Quinyon and Darius. Quinyon just plays with 0 fear, man. 0 fear.
Yeah.
The kid is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. He is locked on receivers. He's just stick 'em. He's stick 'em.
Yeah.
So I think you sent me something about how if he makes a mistake, he learns from it almost immediately.
That's what I was just going to bring up, is that I sent you that tweet that someone analyzed every snap and like the technique he's playing and things like that. And I think the biggest takeaway that the biggest thing I took from that tweet was this person saying, yes, you see sometimes like the new car, you don't get that new car smell with him, but there are instances where he does make what you might quote a rookie mistake, or someone who is learning the NFL. But the tweet followed up with that saying, but after one play, it's committed to memory and then it's gone.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't happen again. And I think one of the biggest things about the NFL is your ability to process and your ability to understand what is happening. Sometimes it makes no difference how athletic you are or how, fast you are or how high you can jump. It's your ability to process and understand what is going on, combined with your obviously superhuman athletic ability. But if you can, like, you talk about guys like Luke Kuechly, like, is that guy the most athletic guy you've ever seen in your life? No. He just knew what you were doing before you did. And was able to use that to his advantage. And I think there might not be a better compliment you could pay to a rookie than, like, one mistake happens and it doesn't happen again. It's committed to memory, and then that's it. It's over. He understands how to handle it the next time.
Right. It doesn't allow for tendencies to be put on film.
Right.
And I truly haven't found a tendency in him. Like, it's crazy that, I watch every game back and there's just no tendency. He's so mature already. So they got a good one there, and they have a good one in Cooper DeJean, who has been their highest rated defender since coming back. It's such a chess piece for Vic Fangio, and now Sidney Brown starting to work up another chess piece. And these sim blitzes that he's putting on film, it's going to make it very difficult to deal with them down the road, because you never know when Nakobe's coming. You don't know who's dropping into coverage. You don't know if Nakobe's coming power move or finesse move. You don't know if it's going to be Cooper from the edge, and Cooper will sometimes feign blitz and then drop back into coverage. Like, I think this is what we've heard about Vic's defense, and how it takes a little bit of time because of people learning their roles and what is expected of them, and getting some athleticism into the group with guys like Cooper and guys like Sidney. So the defense was humming. Now this will be a great test for them this weekend.
Yeah.
Because it's a really good offense they're facing, and probably outside of Lamar, the best quarterback left on their schedule.
Yeah.
I know people love Jaden Daniels right now, but I'm not ready to put him in the Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. I mean, look, he's good. You have to give him that. He's played very well.
Very talented.
But I agree. He's not in the Lamar, Joe Burrow.
Yeah. We could be eventually. I love Jaden Daniels. I loved him in the draft. But when I'm talking about the best quarterbacks you're playing the rest of the way, I'm talking Joe Burrow. I'm talking Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
For right now. But it'll be a good test for the defense. On the other side of the ball, I think we're starting to see what the identity is. I know that they don't want to admit this, but I think there's two pieces to the identity. It's explosives in the pass game and Saquon Barkley. And I know that we struggle with this. I know I struggle with this, that we just can't put together a typical grinded out drive, like 4-yard pass, 4-yard run, 2-yard run, whatever. Like, we can't just, we're not going to be a team that dinks and dunks their way up the field. A few things from this game on the offensive side. They're going to have to plug some holes here for a little bit on the line. Fred Johnson was okay. They went away from the pass game, and he's a grader in the run game. He did a nice job in the run game. Mekhi Becton went down. So we know who's sliding in at guard. He played really well too.
Yeah.
If Fred Johnson continues to struggle this week, I do wonder if they have the conversation about removing him and using
Steen.
Becton.
Becton. You think Becton at tackle?
Who did you say?
I said if you were thinking moving Steen to tackle, because that's where he played mostly at Alabama, right?
You have a conversation, but basically using the two of them in one way or the other, versus Johnson. My guess is that they'd want to keep Becton at guard
Yeah.
because it's just that's where they see him right now, and Steen is sort of your moving, your Swiss Army knife on the line. Um, but I think that's going to take Fred Johnson really struggling, and if it was going to happen, last week would have been the week. This Bengal defense isn't necessarily.
Yeah, I think they got Hendrickson, who's been a pretty good pass rusher for a while. But
Sure. It's definitely not Brian Burns, and
yeah,
it's definitely not Dexter Lawrence or Ojolari. Like
God,
we're
Dexter
not.
Lawrence is a monster. Good Lord.
Oh, he's the best player he's the best defender, defensive lineman in the league.
Yeah.
Like it's not even close.
Yeah.
But so yeah, that's the offensive line. My other takes here are AJ Brown's really good, Saquon Barkley's really good, and I don't think there's really much else to add there. Jalen, man,
Yeah.
look,
What's your opinion on, like, there seems to be a thought that's starting to prevail that this might have been Jalen's worst game.
yeah, look, it's funny because I am a Jalen defender. We're gonna talk about this at the end of
Yeah.
the show. I'm a Jalen lover. I'm a Jalen defender. I think Jalen gets a really bad rap in the city, and people discount the fact that he's had an offensive coordinator for 2 years one time, and that second year was the best year of his career, but no one wants to really talk about that. We tend to cast that to the side. It was not a good game. He threw the ball 14 times, and none of it looked great. Some really bad decisions to not throw the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Watching it initially, I believed he got sacked 4 times, and I just thought that all 4 were on the line. I think 2 were on him. There, I'm not sure, Regs, and I don't know where I read this. I think it might have been Fran Dunphy who talked about like the potential that him having to make the calls on at the line of scrimmage
Mm-hmm.
is messing with him a little bit.
Yeah.
And that if they want to settle him in, they're gonna have to simplify some things, give him some easy throws early, let him get into a rhythm. Because I do agree that this was probably his worst game of the year from a decision making standpoint. I mean, they basically said you're not going to throw the ball anymore.
Yeah.
However, it's another game he didn't turn the ball over. So something needs to be said for that too. He didn't
Yeah.
put the ball in his way. He did take a couple of sacks. But there's plays that he left meat on the bone. The mesh route
Mm-hmm.
with Devontae across the middle of the field. I mean, he looks at Devontae 3 times
Right.
and doesn't throw.
Right.
And I'm not sure what that's about.
Yeah.
Like, I wish I knew what was wrong
Yeah.
in that scenario.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just some things that don't seem right.
Yeah.
With Jalen right now, and I can't pinpoint the cause. I don't know the cause. I'm taking guesses. But Jalen, like, we know he can run the offense at a high level. We've seen him do it. We know he's a winner. We've seen him win. Am I concerned? No. Do I want their identity to be turn around and hand the ball to 26 or throw it up because AJ Brown's down there somewhere? No. I really want to have like an offense that you can do anything and win any way, but they have something to build on. And I think that's the important thing right now.
Yeah.
They have a star running back who, my gosh, is just freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And they have who I think he's arguably the best receiver in football.
Yeah.
So they have stuff. it's really just and look at me complaining about an offense that put up 28. Um, it's not like the Giants defense is like putrid. You know, they beaten the Seahawks. They played with the Bengals. That vaunted Commanders team only beat them by 3 in Washington.
Yeah.
And the Eagles go to New York and win by 4 scores. So we can say it's just the Giants, it's just the Giants, but like if we don't beat them by 4 scores, that's not the tone.
Yeah.
So they've won the last 2 games. They're supposed to win those games. We haven't had a comfortable win like that since the Dolphin game in 23.
Yeah.
So like week 5.
Yeah.
So like I'm taking it. I think if you asked me last week confidence level in this team on a 1 to 10, I would have been at a 3. This week I'm at like a 5 or 6. My confidence level has grown.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not all the way there.
Yeah.
A really strong performance against a good Bengals team would lift my spirits
Oh,
quite
yeah.
a bit. I think that this is their toughest game for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
I think it eases up a little bit again here. So you win this game, I think we're all feeling pretty good. But I mean, any thoughts from this game or any other like things to talk about
No,
that you want
I
to touch on?
I think very quickly. I think the secondary's ability, and Fran had a lot of this in his film breakdown on PHLY. They seem to get much better at passing routes off to each other, which was a big problem in the Cleveland game. And Cooper was a big part of that, but it just seemed like they're starting to understand how to do that in the context of the defense, which I think is huge. I think this secondary will really have to cover well for this defensive line to get home. Hopefully that continues to improve, but I really do think they're going to have to play really well on the back end to give their guys a shot. I think offensively, it just someone said this on a podcast I was listening to, is that it's just like the offense is like that big play and things like that. Like it's just not sustainable. Like it hasn't been proven to be sustainable. And like, again, I'm not going to complain about winning by 3 scores. It is what it is. But I think in the context of if you want this team to eventually go back to a Super Bowl, if you want like Jalen to truly be a $50 million quarterback, these are just not the tendencies of the best offenses in football. And so you're right. We still don't understand if that's a scheme, if it's a quarterback thing. Like again, I think this was unfortunately one of Jalen's like very down the totem pole decision-making games, which is concerning. And again, we don't know what is it going to take for him to just pull the trigger on some of these throws. Yeah. We just don't understand that. I'd like it, I think, to be trending more towards a sustainability for this offense. I think that would make a lot of people feel better. And look, they still have time to do that. I completely get it. It's 6 games. I get it. Yeah. There's plenty of time for that to still happen. I think that's the only thing I key on, is that that's sustainability part of it, is that you want this, like, them to be in a place where, they can handle any type of situation and be able to have a counter to it, like the best offenses do. Yeah. But look, you're going to beat bad teams on talent alone, and that's what we saw. I think like you just saw their talent overwhelm the Giants eventually.
Yeah, I think but there was a stretch last year where it didn't matter who the team was on the other side; they weren't winning.
Yeah, right.
And this year, we all had a little bit of angst coming into this game because it felt like, here we go, it's gonna be one of these. But it was the first time in a long time that I could sit down and watch the fourth quarter without caring. I like sat on the couch. I didn't stand.
Yeah.
I didn't pace. So it felt good, and I'm hoping that we get more of that. But I just don't want their identity, like you said, to be we either throw it up and
Right.
hey, AJ's
Yeah.
down there, or we hand it off to 26 and that's it.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with defining your team on the run, but you've got to be able to do stuff off of the run too. And
Yeah.
and so far we just haven't seen that sustainable,
Yeah.
consistent part of the offense. So
Right.
hopefully that continues to build. I do think they have stuff to build on though, and that's more than I could say at any point last year.
Yeah.
All right. So before we get into the Bengals game itself, let me just do this. The trade deadline is 2 weeks from um yesterday, Tuesday. It's Tuesday the 5th. It's election day. A lot of things happening that day. Um there's some big decision for like the highest job in the land. That's happening on um on Tuesday the 5th. It is the college football playoff on Tuesday the 5th, and it is the NFL trade deadline. It's also Brother Joe's first day at his new job at the school, so good luck to Brother Joe. But the Regs, the thing that we know about the Eagles is that the front office is going to go get something that they need. When they need it. In the Super Bowl season, it was Jay Ajayi. They went and got Jay Ajayi as a running back, plugged him into a running back room that just needed one more piece. In other years, how he's gone and gotten the defensive lineman, it hasn't always been the ideal fit, hasn't always been the one that makes a difference or makes an impact, but he's shown the desire to go get it. This year, we've seen that they're in the conversation for wide receivers and they're in the conversation for edge rushers. I think tight end's a possibility. I'd actually put tight end ahead of wide receiver. I don't think there's any way they're going and getting a wide receiver at the deadline.
Yeah.
Um, I think for me, and we're not going to dig too deep here. I just on the surface, we'll talk about it more next week, unless they make a deal between now and then. But I think edge rusher is the space to go. I think you're pretty set at corner. You're set at safety. You're set at linebacker. On the offensive side, tight end could be a place you go. Jalen's not throwing to Jahan Dotson, so I don't think he's going to throw to someone else who comes in new right now. Jalen has to trust you, and I just wouldn't waste capital on that.
Yeah.
I think it's not, I don't want to go too crazy here again. I said we're not going to go too in depth, but like the big names that are being talked about are Max Crosby and Myles Garrett, neither of whom I believe are going to be an Eagle. They're going to take a lot of draft capital, and I don't think Howie wants to give up a lot of draft capital. I think this is a really good draft class for edge rusher, so like they can get a young one in the draft, but I do believe that they'll try and find one of those middle of the pack types that could benefit them. I know Chase Young he's on the Saints, could be an interesting fit. Probably comes pretty cheap. They have 3 5th-round picks this year, so they could use one of those to toss toward New Orleans, but could be an interesting depth piece. He's not been the guy that everybody thought he was going to be, but maybe coming here, change the scenery. The Saints started 2-0, but haven't won a game since. Could be an interesting guy, but that's the type of name I'd anticipate coming their way. I don't see a wide receiver.
Yeah.
That's sort of that. And I would caution people to the articles that get leaked by like your Bleacher Reports and things like that. Like those are just people
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Cooper Kupp would make no sense for this team at all.
No, I'm completely with you. I don't think wide receiver is high on the list. I do think edge is up there, and to the other point, I think I'm not like depending on what becomes available, like I wouldn't put it past them for like a safety. I think Reed Blankenship's a good player, but if it came out that someone, like a really good safety became available, that might be where they prioritize things. I'm not sure offensively, outside of like a catastrophic injury happening, on the O line or something like that they'd really be looking to do anything there. But I think you're right. It's probably not in the cards that Myles Garrett or Max Crosby is coming here. It's probably a depth piece, someone they can just plug in and, keep that rotation going and things like that. I think that's much more likely.
Especially if like Bryce Young keeps taking a step forward and Nolan Smith takes steps forward.
Yeah, exactly.
I think they, a depth piece makes the most sense. Like,
yeah,
they got Robert Quinn a few years ago. I think like that's the type of move that you're looking at. But I anticipate something. I think that they know their quarterback well enough.
Yeah.
To know that like adding a receiver right now it's not going to do anything. It's just not going to do anything. So let's move into this week's game. So they got the Bengals. They're on the road. They're 2.5-point underdogs, which is essentially a pick 'em, because you get 3 points for being at home. So you're pretty much on that line of like pick your poison here.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any secret at what the Bengals do well. Joe Burrow slings the ball, man. He just throws it. He's got two really good receivers.
Yep.
We know all about Jamar Chase. This dude is real. He is going to be a handful for the Eagles all day. It is going to be. The Eagles don't follow, so whatever side he's on is
it's the side he's on. Yep.
Is the side he's on. So he's going to see Quinion. He's going to see Darius. He might even get into the slot and see Coop. But they're going to see all. He's going to see them all. So far this year, he's got 39 catches for 620 yards.
It's pretty good.
So yeah, he's averaging 16 yards a catch. So it is going to be longer developing. T. Higgins is their second wide receiver, 29 catches for 350 yards. Not bad. Zach Moss and Chase Brown, are their backs. They have about 70 carries apiece. Moss has 230 yards and Brown has 330 yards. So they do have guys. Mike Gesicki is a guy to watch for in this game. He's dominated the Eagles before when he was a Dolphin. He's not having a tremendous year, but tight end does seem to haunt the birds a little bit. So let's do our keys and then we'll do predictions. I think the key for me, Regs, this week is the defensive line continuing to build on what they've done the last few weeks. It's stopping the run. It's getting into passing downs. It's making Burrow make decisions quickly and not wait for his stud receivers to get downfield.
Yeah.
You got one who averages 16 yards a catch, another who averages 12 yards a catch. So, forcing Joe to get rid of the ball early or getting him, he can move. He's not as willing after the knee injuries that he's had, but he can and will move. So for me, it's just continuing the momentum that you have as a defensive line right now. Continue to play good defense, build on what you've done, and the offense will do enough to win.
Yeah, my key is actually on the offensive side. I think they're going to need to put up points, and I don't think the points are going to come as easily as they did against the Giants. So I think the key is that the offense finds a way to sustain drives and keep Joe Burrow off the field. I think they really need to lean into the running game. The Bengals, defense is not very good. So I really think they need to put together 8-9 minute drives and just give the Bengals offense as few possessions as possible. I just think the Bengals offense scares me. They have a lot of talent. They have a lot of guys who can take advantage of the Eagles' poor tackling. And again, the Eagles did a great job on Malik Neighbors, and he's literally a stud. I get it. Jamar Chase is a different animal. He's a proven, really good wide receiver in this league who is not a rookie and knows how to take advantage of certain things. Do I think the defense like the secondary is playing better? Absolutely, I do. I really do. But I think the offense is going to need to put up some points in this one. So I really hope that they can just sustain some drives from the jump. Like, just keep Joe Burrow off the field for as long as possible. And I would just love for them to find a way to do that and really put some drives together that just take a long time. And he's just sitting over there, just sitting on that white bench, not doing anything for like minutes at a time.
Yeah, they're 8th in the league in passing yards and 28th in the league in rushing.
Yeah.
So they want to throw it.
Oh, yeah.
10th in the league in scoring. Defensively, they're 20th in the league in total yards allowed, 21st in passing yards, 21st in rushing yards, 20th in points, and they allow 44% of third downs to be converted. So, like you said, this is not a world-beating defense.
Yeah.
You're giving up 136 rushing yards a game, and now you got Saquon Barkley coming in. So, I agree they need to take advantage of the ground game a little bit here and force them to bring guys into the box, commit a safety to the run game, and then you get your one-on-one shots down the field with AJ, with Devontae, things like that. So we're gonna go ahead and make the pick. 2.5 point dogs on the road. 47.5 is the total. Regz, I've gone back and forth on this week, but I have a little bit of confidence in this team right now. It's peaking at this point.
All right.
So I'm gonna say that the Eagles win a close game. I'm going 27-23.
Okay.
Eagles. And I don't think it's like a late score. I think it's just one of those. It's one of those that they like both teams are giving the ball back and forth.
Yeah.
Somehow the Bengals end up with it at the end. Eagles get a stop, run the clock. I think that's the way I see it. I don't think it's like a score late thing. But that's kind of where I'm at. I have it going over. Eagles win.
Yeah, I have the Bengals winning on a last second field goal, 23-21.
Okay. All right.
I just think that despite the leaps that the defense is making, it's probably the best combo of quarterback and receivers that they're going to play for a while.
I mean, honestly, it might.
It might be the best.
Outside of the Eagles, is there a better wide receiver combination in football? Like maybe
Minnesota, Addison and Jefferson. I don't know. They're 5-1, right? I don't know.
I think the Jefferson
highly outweighs Addison. Yeah, that's fair.
Whereas like AJ, Devontae come a little closer.
Higgins and Chase are a little bit closer. Yeah,
Chase a little closer than that. Like, I don't know. I mean, I think.
Look, I just think the Bengals will have a way to exploit the middle of the field. Nakobe Dean and Zach Bond are not great in coverage, and despite the addition of Cooper, I think there's going to be a lot of zones, so they're going to have to pass off these guys, and you better be precise because both of these dudes will kill you if you're not on your game. And Burrow is not afraid to sling it into tight windows and let these guys just eat. So listen, it's a tough game on the road. I don't think losing by 2 is like the end of the world, honestly. I think if your offense can still put up 21 points, I don't think you can take much away from them.
Yeah.
I just think it might be a little too much on the road. And again, I'm not saying it's not a blowout. It's not by a touchdown, right? It might just be I'm predicting a last second field goal.
One thing that I want to say before I go into this last part here is I agree that that's potentially that's a possibility. I want to caution people from going the whole other end of the spectrum this week. Like, oh, this defense isn't good. They suck. They fooled us. They're frauds.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying that at all.
No, I'm
Oh yeah.
cautioning people.
Mm-hmm.
Like keep in mind that this is still Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
And this is still Jamar Chase, and
Yeah.
this is still T. Higgins. Like the guys that are on the other side of the field.
And their running backs are not untalented. Like they're
she's very good.
Yeah.
Just keep in mind that this is a good offense.
Yeah.
Like
this is a real test for this defense.
Yeah, I think it's I'm hoping for a fun game. Like,
Yeah.
I'm hoping for a game that makes me think, okay, this they're fine. Like this is different than last year.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
Like almost like we're in reverse from last year.
Mm-hmm.
Beginning and now we're in reverse.
Yeah, everything's like gonna build to like making this a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, and I think they're getting there slowly but surely. Okay. Quick fixated. I feel like I need to clarify, Regz. This week, I had my first viral tweet. At least I'm considering it. I'm considering it viral.
I agree with you.
Pretty unbelievable situation. I'm pulling it up right now because there's something that I need to be very clear about. Here's the tweet. Let me read it. I gotta get to it. Okay. When the Eagles didn't have AJ, Devontae, Lane, I was told elite quarterbacks have no excuses when their best players are out. Is the media going to hold superstar Brock Purdy to that standard too? Or is that reserved for Hurts? Note, I don't pretend that Jalen is elite. #FlyEaglesFly. I mean, this garnered almost 700 likes. It's bookmarked in the teens. It's retweeted 70 plus times. This is viral for me. Okay. I just want to be clear. I know it's not viral for a lot of people, but this is viral for me.
I appreciated your podcast bump in the middle of this, by the way.
Yeah, you're welcome. It didn't really do much.
It didn't do much, but still, I appreciate it.
I was like, it's worth it, right?
Yeah, of course it is.
While you're here,
of
maybe
course
just
it
follow.
is. Yeah.
I got a few extra follows along the way.
There you go.
Here's what I want to clarify. Couple of things. The first thing being, when I say that I don't pretend that Jalen is elite, what I'm trying to do there is give the context that this is not from a biased perspective. I'm not claiming Jalen as elite. Okay. Someone actually said on there that I had them until that last sentence, and I was like, well, then you're blind. Like you really don't know football. Right. If you are convinced that Jalen Hurts is in that elite tier, right? Someone else said that every quarterback in the NFL is elite because they're in the NFL, and if they weren't in the NFL,
that was a stupid comment.
And I was like, I don't even know how to respond to you because that's just not factual. Like, sure, they're in the best league in the world, absolutely, but within that league, there's elite. Like, they're still elite. Like, Patrick Mahomes is the defining piece of elite. So my point in saying that I'm not someone who sits and tries to defend Jalen in that tier was simply to give context. And it's not coming from a biased place of like, oh, well, it hurts my feelings that you don't think that Jalen, that you blame Jalen, but you don't. That's what I'm trying to say, right? Like it's that. The other piece of this is simply that when Jalen struggled in the games without those guys, every show on ESPN, on FS1, every one of these shows talked about how Jalen Hurts was struggling, but no excuses for Jalen. Like none. Like no, well, he's not playing with AJ. He's not playing. It was Jalen Hurts is struggling. So I watched Brock Purdy play on Sunday. And, prayers out to Brandon Ayuk. That sucks. Obviously, Debo having pneumonia, prayers out to him too. Christian McCaffrey's out. I get Juwan Jennings didn't play. So I get it, right? But what I was told when Jalen had all those injured players and injured teammates was that elite quarterbacks lift whoever's around them. That's what was said. That was the point. Where's that energy for Brock Purdy? And look, there's status to this. Like Jalen's got the big contract, Brock doesn't have the big contract. Jalen was a 2nd-round pick, Brock's a 7th-round pick. But if we're gonna sit here and say that Brock Purdy is so good and he does this so well and he's so accurate and he reads defenses and he's so smart, then he should be able to elevate his team, right? Like that's the standard. If that's the standard that we're calling him elite, that's the standard when he fails as well. He threw 3 interceptions the other day. 3. Not 1, not 2, but 3. Jalen didn't throw any interceptions when he didn't have those guys. He fumbled, but he didn't throw any interceptions. End of the day, I think if we're gonna hold one guy accountable, gotta hold everybody accountable. The standard is the standard. Jalen would say that, so I'm gonna leave it at that. But thanks for everybody who engaged in that
I
tweet.
was about to say, congrats on the viral tweet.
Fun moment for me. I did say to you at one point, I don't know how people do this every day. I don't know how people do that on purpose. Like, oh, I'm just gonna put this take out here and just let people go nuts on me.
Right.
Because I every time I landed, I had 2 flights, and every time I got like I had 30 alerts on my phone, and I was like, this is getting insane. Like I can't track it. So thanks for everybody who had fun in there. There was one Niner fan who's also a Phillies, Flyers, and Sixers fan.
Yeah,
so that was
odd combination.
Yeah, that was
That was.
entertaining.
Did you ever see that Crossing Broad video where it's Eagles versus Cowboys, and they go in through the parking lot and ask every Cowboys fan where they grew up, and
Yeah.
like not one of them grew up in Texas.
No,
Not one of them.
no.
I think the farthest was like Virginia.
And the funny thing about this guy was like he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Mhm.
Like his arguments were so ridiculous. Like, how comes Jimmy Garoppolo couldn't do it with the same talent? Because Jimmy Garoppolo, well, first of all, Jimmy Garoppolo went to a Super Bowl, and he didn't have Brandon Ayuk,
Yeah.
and he didn't have Christian McCaffrey, and he had rookie Debo Samuel.
Right.
Like it's so no, yes, he did it, and he did it with far less talent. The defining piece for Brock Purdy is that he is the best offensive coordinator in football, and Jalen Hurts has not played with the same offensive coordinator for more than 2 years.
Yeah.
So that's the defining difference between the two right now. And it's not even necessarily a comparison of the two. It's a comparison of the way that they are compared.
Yeah. Right.
That's what it is. It's the stories that we hear from one, but the other doesn't have that same criticism. I did watch Get Up that on Monday before I left for the airport. Or on my flight, I watched Get Up. On my when I got to the hotel, I turned on Sports Center. I turned on PTI. No one. I turned on Monday Night Countdown. No one talked about Brock Purdy negatively. No one. Not a single one of them.
Yeah.
They barely even breached the subject. I think the only guy who did was Colin Cowherd. That's the only guy who said anything. So kudos to him, because if the standard's got to be the standard.
That's what Colin Cowherd needs, is an ego bump.
Well, I just gave him one, so there we go. Well, guys, thanks for listening. I am home next week, so we'll probably do our normal Thursday show.
Love it.
So we'll have some Sixers talk. We'll visit the trade deadline with the Eagles. We'll recap the Bengals. We'll look forward to the Jaguars, which has been moved to 4 o'clock.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sunday. And we're gonna see where the World Series is at.
Yeah.
We'll check in and see where that's at. What's your prediction for that, Regz?
Dodgers in 6.
Yeah, I actually think it might be quicker than that. I think it might be quicker than that.
I just think Juan Soto and Aaron Judge might win you a game or two by themselves.
See,
with how the Dodgers pitching is.
Here's my thought on this. The Yankees have really escaped playing really bad teams. And I don't mean that they've escaped in the sense of like, oh, they got lucky. I mean,
oh no, just how it's set up.
I don't even mean that. I mean, within the series, they've had traffic on the bases. They've you know, they've had, the other team has had opportunities, but the other team has had opportunities with far lesser talent
Yeah.
than, Will Smith hitting 8th or Max Muncy hitting 7th. Like, this is a very different team that they're about to play.
Mm-hmm.
I understand the pitching piece. The other thing about the Dodgers is they're a very well managed organization. They're very well prepared, very strategic. There's no they spent 2 years having to deal with Juan Soto in their division.
Yeah.
And being a smart franchise, they're very aware of Aaron Judge.
Yeah.
They're very aware of Giancarlo Stanton. The Yankees won the ALCS because of Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, and Giancarlo Stanton.
Mm-hmm.
The Dodgers are not going to let those three beat them.
Yeah, not on purpose, at least.
No. So, I think you're right. I think they can win you a game, but I do think that the Dodgers, I don't think it's going to be.
Yeah.
I think maybe they lose their bullpen game.
Yeah.
But I don't think that bullpen game happens till game 4.
Yeah.
And at that point, you're hoping you
What's
got
it?
2-1.
Garrett Cole, Jack Flaherty, first game 1.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's that, and then Yamamoto in game 2.
Yeah.
Against Rodon. I
Probably,
believe.
you would think. Yeah.
And this Dodger team is just, they just come at you. There's so many of them, and they don't swing at crap. I mean, Garrett Cole struggled in the Guardian series in both of his starts. He wasn't normal Garrett Cole.
Yeah.
And he was able to get out of jams because he's facing, I don't know, Bo Naylor.
Yeah.
Like, with runners on second and third and 2 outs, you face Bo Naylor's hitting 5th.
Yeah.
Like, who's that going to be for the Dodgers? That's like Tommy Edman or Freddie Freeman.
Yeah.
Or like, you know what I mean? Like,
just think of the names on this roster, and Tommy Edman won NLCS MVP.
Dude, he's so good though. He's just always
11 RBIs.
It's always been injuries for Tommy Edman, and he's healthy now.
Is he a free agent? Can we get him?
I don't know that he's a free agent. I actually think.
I thought somebody said he was.
Maybe he is. I listen. I would not be opposed to it.
I think Salisbury said, "Man, wouldn't he be good on the Phillies?"
I don't know where he'd play for us, but
anywhere.
I guess he could play anywhere. That's what he does. But I don't know.
All right.
It's they're. I think Dodgers in 5.
All right.
I think Dodgers in 5.
Yeah.
I think they win New York. I don't think it comes back.
Yeah.
I actually think they go up 3-0.
There you go.
So, all right, man. Well, hey, listen, we'll be back Thursday. We'll probably talk a little World Series, but once the World Series ends, we'll get into our Phillies offseason.
Yeah.
We're going to give it until the World Series is over to go that route. But have a great rest of your week, everyone. Make sure you follow, click subscribe on the YouTube channel. Follow us on wherever you get your podcast. Rate us there, and then head to social media at the Phixated Pod on Twitter, at the Mic Drop 5 at Big Rigs with a Z. Head over to Facebook Phixated fan page, TikTok at the Phixated Pod. Merchandise link is in the show description. We will talk to you on Thursday of next week. Enjoy your weekends. Enjoy one another. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to one another. And until we talk to you again, go Birds.
Go Birds. See you, everybody.
Oh my God! Deep to right field, way up there and way out of here. The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.